Good morning. Today is January 19th, Friday, 2018. My name is Ruby Powers. I'm a board certified immigration attorney at Powers Law Group here in Houston, Texas. And we're going to conduct, it's 11 a.m. approximately Central Time. We're going to be answering some questions from the audience, from Facebook Live, from calling in. On our Facebook Live, you can put it in the comment section. We also have some other prior questions, as well as you can call at 713-589-2085, and those questions will be given to me during this time. So we'll be going for about 30 minutes or so, depending on different calls we get. So in summary, another busy week in news. I did chat last Saturday, and this week, we still don't have, as of right now, unless it's happened since I started recording, there hasn't been an agreement on how to prevent the government shutdown between the debates between the border wall, and the future of DACA. There's a lot at stake, and they haven't found an agreement. The other thing that came out yesterday is that on the 18th, is that the TPS El Salvadorians can now apply to re-register. They can register between January 18th, 2018 to March 19, 2018. They will be given a new work authorization, otherwise known as EAD, with September 9th, 2019 expiration date. So basically you have until right now, until March 19th, 2018, to apply to renew, to re-register. And let's see. So that's the summary for TPS El Salvadorians, which can affect approximately 260,000 people. And that announcement was made a week and a half ago that it will only be renewed one more time until September 2019. Now, there's a lot of news going on about the Dreamers. There's some recent articles, DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, was ended September 5th, 2017. It was given 1 month to renew anybody who could. And then last week, they allowed us to renew anybody who was within the 150 days. So that still is possible to renew. As of last week, the I-821D form was put on USCIS's website, I think Saturday night. After my last Facebook Live. And so the form is there. You can submit your renewals, but please get it out as soon as possible because there's already been a lawsuit to challenge the prior lawsuit. So basically, it's probably just a matter of time. So get those DACA renewals out as soon as possible. And a lot of the news in the media right now is talking about how much DACA contributes, Dreamers contribute. And, well, we know they do. And they're awesome. And we want to keep them here. So we hope to get a resolution. And we need to be a voice for them. So let's go on to some questions from the audience.
So someone just mentioned that they're from El Salvador. And they heard that TPS expired. And they think that they're going to be deported. Is that true?
Okay, well, the TPS, like I just mentioned, for El Salvador has only been renewed for one more time until September 2019. You should definitely renew if you meet the qualifications. Of course, things could change in the last 18 months since you received it. But, some people have heard or afraid to renew because of that it's going to end. But if you're otherwise qualified, I don't see why you shouldn't renew. And there's only 1 month opportunity to do, 2 months to do so between January 18th and March 19th, 2018. So then the question, I think there's a two-part question, is what happens after September 2019? Well, that's really going to be up to everybody to get a plan, what I'm just calling a plan B. You need to do a consult right now with an experienced immigration attorney and figure out what your options are. Now, we've been making lists of what possibilities people might be eligible for, and that's something we can keep talking about. But what happens after September 2019 is going to depend if you found another form of relief, and it also could be, we surmise that the government would probably issue notice to appear to go to immigration court for most people. But that would take an operation to send it to so many people. But we don't know exactly. But you've got to be prepared for that date and plan ahead.
So the next question is, my friend told me that I would have to register to keep my TPS if I am from El Salvador. Is this true?
So do you have to register to keep your TPS from El Salvador? Yes. Like we've mentioned, you need to re-register now between January 18, 2018 to March 19, 2018. This is the time to re-register as long as you otherwise qualify.
So the next question is DACA still happening? I heard that they were taking new applications. How can I apply for DACA, and what are these qualifications?
Okay. So is DACA still happening? I heard they're taking new applications, and how can I apply for DACA, and what are the qualifications? Okay. They're not taking new applications. What they're taking are renewals. So basically, like I mentioned, September 2017, September 5th, DACA stopped. In some respects, no new ones and no advanced paroles. But the people had 1 month to renew anything that was going to expire within 150 days. And then on Tuesday, January, whatever last Tuesday was, there was the ruling that said that people were still eligible to renew their DACA for the time being. So if you have DACA and it's going to expire within 150 days from right now, you should file a renewal right now, because that opening will probably close soon. So
going towards asylum, what are the basic qualifications for political asylum?
So the question is the basic qualifications for asylum. Now, some people call it political asylum, but really it's just asylum. And political asylum political aspect can be one of the reasons why a person would be eligible, one of the protected areas. So the basic key elements of asylum are past persecution and or fear of future persecution on account of, now that's important, one of 5 things. Nationality, 2 is political opinion, 3, religion, 4, race, and 5 is membership in a particular social group. Now, the membership in a particular social group is where you sort of can find a group that is identifiable and what they call immutable, which means you can't change it. And if you can demonstrate that, then there's some other requirements as well. You could meet their qualifications for asylum. Now, some of the other ones are all essential as well. There's nowhere else in your country for you to go. So if there's a safe spot, then they would argue that you should go to that part of the country. The other thing is that you have to explore and mention and prove that you have nowhere else in the world to go, no other citizenships or visas that are valid. And the other one is that you have to apply within 1 year of entry. Now, there are exceptions for exceptional circumstances and change circumstances. Now, there's a lot of discussion, which is still open, to whether some of the El Salvadorian TPS candidates would qualify for asylum, considering. And I think it's something to explore. I'm not going to say on a overall everyone, because that's not, you can't say that. You have to look at every individual case. But to have not applied before and for things to change, that's where the argument, and you have to meet all the other requirements. But it is one of the possibilities to explore on alternative forms of relief for El Salvadorians with TPS. Now, I think one of the other questions is that what is the first thing, what's the difference between political and religious asylum? Well, that goes back to why are you applying for asylum? On account of one of the 5 things. So, for example, if it's religion, then it's like to say you are, let's say, a Christian in a non-Christian country and that you believe that you'll be persecuted for that, for example. And political could be that you oppose the major leading party of your country's government and that you'll be persecuted because of that opinion, and you can demonstrate that. So those are just a simple example of the difference between those two. So I'll take more questions.
So someone asks about regarding citizenship. What is the first thing that they should do if they want to become a citizen?
Well, so what's the first thing to do if you want to become a citizen of the United States? Well, that is could be a complicated answer because the simple question, because you can, lots of different ways. People can, there's a path in the middle before we get to citizenship through legal permanent residency. Sometimes people are citizens by being born in the United States. Sometimes people are U.S. citizens by being born to Americans outside of the United States. Some people, but normally this question probably relates more to naturalization. And people, first before naturalization, in most cases, there's some exceptions, you would have to become a legal permanent resident beforehand. And to become a legal permanent resident, which is like the green card holder we use colloquially, you would have to obtain it either through family basis, work, investment, and that's generally the possibilities. And then once you receive the work authorization, the legal permanent residency, you normally need to have it and maintain status for 5 years, pay your taxes, don't commit any crimes, live the majority of the time in the United States. Or you could use the 3-year basis if you are living and married to a U.S. citizen for that and they've been a U.S. citizen that entire 3 years and living with them. So that is a little bit more complicated to go into detail, but if you have a more specific question, I can answer that as well. That's the overall answer.
There's been a lot of news recently about raids occurring at people's jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Can my employer call ICE on me?
Whoa, okay. There's been raids. There's been more news about raids at people's jobs. Can the employer call ICE on me? Well, it's probably not in the best interest of the employer to call ICE on you because they'll probably be sanctioned with fines for having, well, depending on what your situation is. So I think part of this question is implying that whoever's asking probably doesn't have work authorization. So this is a multiple faceted question. One thing is that there are more raids presumably happening. There doesn't seem to be a big rhyme or reason to where they're happening, but they're around the country. We've seen more of them. So if they were to happen, well, basically, can the employer call ICE on me? I mean, that's really not in their best interest. I'd rather just answer it that way, but and move on to the next question.
What happened to SB4 in Texas? I know that was going to be a big change, but did anything come out of it?
Well, so SB4 was voted in 2017 in Texas. And so for the people who aren't in Texas, it probably doesn't apply to you. But it basically, what some people referred it to, the show me your papers law, or that a police officer would be able to enforce federal immigration law. What's happening with it? Well, there was a lawsuit, and it's still going through beyond the Fifth Circuit right now. And so we're just waiting. So right now it's in, but part of it is in effect. So it's a bit complicated to explain all the parts of it, but some is in effect and some is being challenged right now. But it is something to consider in the background, to be aware that this could go. We're not sure when the results will be. If you have any other questions, you can give us a call at 713-589-2085. And we're also taking questions on the Facebook Live comment section.
So this question was emailed in. What can I do if I'm only a resident here from Mexico and my wife is illegal, also from Mexico? We have 2 children. Mm-hmm. One is 11 and the other is 9. Is there any way that I can help her status?
Okay. So the person calling in or emailing is that they are a resident and they're from Mexico, and their wife is not here legally or does not have status. And they have 2 children, 11 and 9. Is there any way you can help her status? Okay. Well, we look at the big picture, but, some of the things to consider are the wife, the intending immigrant, how did they enter the United States? Do they have any prior deportation orders? Have they ever been fingerprinted or detained before or put in the system? So those are some of the questions to ask at first. Then we could explore when the person calling could qualify for citizenship. Just without knowing all the details, it looks like the person calling in can apply for an I-130 for their wife. We need to also double check that they're legally married, and if they're common law married, that's been registered. And if anybody's been divorced before, that was properly divorced. So ideally, the person who has residency could petition for their wife. And then if it's a clean case where the wife entered only one time and there's no crimes, no complications, then the legal permanent resident, once that visa becomes current, which it's taking 2 years for legal permanent resident spouse visa to become current, or faster if the legal permanent resident can qualify for citizenship, then they would be able to do the provisional waiver. The provisional waiver would be the I-130, the NVC, the I-601A, and then the wife would have to leave the country, if she's from Mexico as well, go to Juarez, and be proving that hardship to the legal permanent resident spouse and why he can't move to Mexico would be key to the provisional waiver. The children are indirectly affected, and so that could be added. The other aspect that could happen is, and this is part of the whole screening process, is important to have a consult, is she eligible for some other form of relief, like a victim of a crime, a U visa, or potentially if she was put in removal proceedings, cancellation of removal for non-legal permanent resident, because she has a legal permanent resident spouse, and we don't know from the question if the children are U.S. citizens or not, but they might be. So there's possibilities. That's not the exact answer because we have to see if there's any other history to the wife's situation that could hinder the provisional waiver or some other option for her. So, okay. Next question. Yeah.
So someone emailed in that they're a U.S. citizen and that they want to get married.
Uh-huh.
Their girlfriend is from Poland and she's here on a tourist visa. Is this possible?
Well, the answer is that the Department of State has stated that if you do something other than what you have intended to do with the visa that you have received within 90 days, they will consider that misrepresentation. So there could be a question as to when did the person apply for the tourist visa and what was the intent in their mind when they applied. The proper way to do it is to get married in a foreign country, file the I-130, the NVC, and the visa appointment, which could take 8 to 12 months. The other possibility would be to do the fiancé visa while she's outside of the country, which would potentially get her in the country faster. There's some issues to discuss in that, so those are some of the things to talk about, but every case is a little different, so it would be better to just have a consultation to discuss further. So I think we're ready for the next question.
So someone called in actually that they heard that you help with asylum.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have experience with asylum from people from Venezuela?
So do we have experience with asylum and people from Venezuela applying for U.S. asylum? Yes, we do. We have several cases, and that have been pending for different stages because this issue has been going on for quite a while and continues to heat up. So we do have experience. I speak Spanish, my staff speaks Spanish, and we have a lot of experience in asylum. So every case is unique and different, but we do have experience with U.S. asylum from Venezuela applicants. And actually, that's a good point. We've realized that there's such a need for more knowledge about asylum that we're going to do a webinar. I'll be presenting in English on January 31st at 11 a.m. Central Time, and we'll be providing that information on our website that you can register. It's for free, but there will be a limited amount of people who can register. And I'm going to go over everything in more detail. So the key elements and requirements, I can also take questions from those on the call. And I'm going to talk about some trends that we've been seeing around the country. Because actually, although we're located in Houston, we have been flying all around the country for asylum interviews. And for example, Houston Asylum Office is only about 25 minutes from our office, which services New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. But we also are a 1-hour flight to New Orleans, which services many other states, including Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and some other states. We've also gone to Boston for asylum interviews and have some other interviews scheduled around the country. So we are going to do that webinar, and you should definitely sign up if you have any questions about that. And we're going to do one in English, but we could do some in other languages if there's the demand and interest. So just let us know if that's of interest to you. So next question.
So this question was emailed in from an employer. They mentioned that they want to get ready for the busy H-1B season that they know is coming up. What can they do to prepare, and what is your experience with H-1B visas?
Okay, so employer wants to get ready for the H-1B season. Like many people know, generally the application for the 2018 fiscal year is due April 1st, 2018 for an October 1st, 2018 start. How do you get ready? What's our experience with that? Well, to get ready for it is to have a consultation. Sometimes we'll do 2 parts. We'll have the talk, and then we'll say, this is the requirements. This is what you need to be thinking about, talking about the job description, the position salary, things like that. And then, and all the requirements. And then we could have a follow-up as needed as you collect that information. But normally, if you're considering applying for the April 1st deadline, we pretty much need to be ideally hired by the end of February, which means we have this 1-month window to really do a lot of the talking, thinking, preparing to get ready for that. We have a lot of experience with H-1B. We've also been able to troubleshoot some of the complications that happened in 2017. And just to add another webinar that we're doing, Michelle Strickland, another attorney with Powers Law Group, will be doing a webinar on H-1Bs next week on January 24th, which is a Wednesday, at 11 a.m. Central. So that information is already on our social media, and we are going to be promoting that. So that's a good place to go if you are an employer, an HR director, or you are wanting to be accepted for an H-1B or to be hired for one. So we are going to be doing these on a regular basis on Fridays at 11 a.m. Central. And I just wanted to say one thing before we close up. It's about TPS. I've been doing a lot of TPS El Salvadorian consultations this last week, and I'm seeing a lot of trends. And I've said this before, but I want to say it again. Many cases, people were caught or detained at the border and possibly had received a deportation order in absentia or a voluntary departure, and they never left. And in many cases, those incidences were never reported on their TPS renewals for the last 17 years. and potentially they have 2A numbers and 2A files. The other thing to mention is that if you have anything that happened in the past for TPS that you don't know what happened, this could also apply for any other person as well. You should be doing Freedom of Information Act requests to find out what happened. And there's different places FOIAs go. The USCIS, CBP, Customs and Border Patrol, EOIR is Immigration Court. So it depends. And I'll tell you, with everything going on with El Salvador right now, I feel like there's going to be a lot of people applying right now. And it's going to create more of a backlog. So if you need to do one, you should have a consult, figure out what you need to do and get it done. The other thing is a lot of people are talking about the advanced paroles to travel, to come back in to have a legal entry. Well, what I've been noticing is a lot of people don't have their El Salvadorian passport. So you should be looking on that as well, because everybody's going to be doing that at the same time, and it's going to create a backlog. So if you're going to be doing your TPS renewal, your advanced parole, you get your passport if you're considering doing the travel. And I'm not saying for everybody to do it. You also do your Freedom of Information Act requests or FBI background checks. So this all needs to be done now, because a lot of the talks I'm having with people, some of the things they're going to need to do are going to take quite some time to get that organized and start moving to the other form of relief. So don't just go to anybody. Maybe the person or somebody who helped you with the TPS renewal might not have the expertise to help you in this last step. So please make sure that you go to somebody who knows what they're doing and has experience and can help troubleshoot these issues. And, we'll continue to talk more about what other possible forms of relief are for TPS El Salvadorians, but please make sure don't wait till the last minute. So in conclusion, if you are considering having a consultation with us at Powers Law Group, you can give us a call at 713-589-2085. We can do the consult in English and Spanish, and we have a lot of webinars coming up. On the January 24th, we have the H-1B webinar at 11 a.m. On January 31st, we have the Asylum webinar at 11 a.m. Central. And on February 7th, we have the webinar on waivers. And I will be discussing I-601A waivers, primarily the consular processing I-601A waivers, but I can discuss some other areas of waivers. So if you want to submit your questions, you can email them to contact@rubypowerslaw.com. That would be contact, CONTACT @rubypowerslaw.com. You can call us at the number 713-589-2085. And we'll write it down and have it ready. You can also put it on Facebook Live when we do the call again. So what is next Friday? That's the 9th. No, today is the 19th. It is January 23rd. January 23rd? No, that's... where's my... January 26th. January 26th. We're just keeping you guessing on your toes. January 26th, Friday, is our next time we'll be doing this. And, if you are in Houston or anywhere in Texas that had some snow and sleet and ice, I hope you are safe. I know we had a very unique week this week. We had MLK Day with closures. And then in Houston, we were working from home Tuesday and Wednesday. So we made up for it by working from home and still answering the phone, even though we were closed to the public, and trying to make up for it this Thursday, Friday. So much is going on in the news. Stay tuned to our Facebook. Like us there if you want to. Stay tuned to our Facebook, our Twitter.